This podcast is a Believe Network and Siete production.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you right now two talented individuals that are going to be starring in the upcoming TV pilot sitcom entitled Maddox. It's Brandon, Michael Maddox, and Eliza Andrus. Thank you so much for giving us your time. How are you?
Doing really well. Yeah, thanks for having us. Very excited.
Like, the pleasure's all mine. And again, I want to thank Brandon because Brandon was also a guest on a D-Lew podcast several months ago talking about, his stand-up. It was a very, very intriguing conversation he and I had. And thank you very much for choosing the D-Lew podcast, to talk about this TV pilot. But Liza, I want to start with you, being that the fans of the D-Lew podcast know who Brandon is, but I want to talk about you a little bit. You mentioned that, life growing up, you were into sports and the drama club and you were a musician. So talk about some of those things in early life.
Yeah, so my dad was my coach for every single sport you can imagine. I didn't swim, but that's basically the only thing I did not do. Everything else, he forced me to play. Clearly that didn't work out too good because I'm sitting here on this podcast. So when I got to 6th grade, the literally most cliche, I'm talking Glee cast where I had to choose. Literally, the teachers made me choose. Do you want to play softball or do you want to do the musical? And I was like, well, I hate softball, so so I'm gonna do the musical. So I did the musical.
Okay.
I had started playing clarinet is my primary instrument. I had started playing that the year before. Why are you laughing? Why is Brandon laughing?
God, I didn't know I was with Rockstar.
On that clarinet. I know that's right. So, the year before that, I had started playing the clarinet, and then I kept up with that all the way through senior year of high school. Clearly, I kept up with drama club as well, and I was doing all the shows and stuff. Didn't play any sports after that. God is good. Thank God I didn't have to keep doing that. And I was in the choir, and I was in all the show choirs. I was in every single band we had to offer at my high school, which there were 5, I think. I did every show except one, and we had 4 choirs, and I was in all of those as well. So I was busy. I was booked and busy all the time.
Wow, that's incredible. So the fact that, you went from sports and you went to drama club and music and bands and everything, that's you must have been the cool girl in school, huh?
I don't know how cool you can call the first chair clarinet player, but
hey.
Yeah.
Listen, it's all good. It's all good. So you're talking about, writing sketches, for your school news network. And how did that come to be?
Okay, so I'm going to sound like a Nepo baby for 2 seconds, but my uncle, and this is not going where you think it's going, Brandon, my uncle was the TV productions teacher in my high school. Ooh. So my brother and I both took his class. My brother's 2 years older than me. So we both took his class, but he went harder on us because we were his niece and nephew. So he actually started me with a 0 and said, figure it out and work your way to a 100. And I had not taken any of the prerequisites. I had never looked at Premiere Pro before. I had never really formatted a script properly. He was like, well, you better figure it out or else you're getting a 0. So I figured it all out. I really, really taught myself how to do everything. We were producing podcasts. We started producing sketches. We started producing it would run every Friday, I think. So we were basically on a Saturday Night Live schedule where every Monday we would come in and we would start the show from scratch. We would start from square one. And we would write the sketches, we'd come up with broadcasts, and we would put a show out on Friday, and it would broadcast to the whole school.
That's incredible. Wow. Yeah.
So I did end up working my way up to a 100. So I literally taught myself everything. And actually at graduation, I was awarded Outstanding Achievement in Television Production, which was, I had no idea I was getting that. It was me and one of my other classmates, but we both won this award at graduation. So that was really cool. I actually felt really accomplished because I was I literally came in knowing nothing and then I left with an award for it.
It's incredible, a lot of times when you said you called yourself a Nepo baby, which I don't think that was, you're not a Nepo baby.
Quite
It's
the
just
opposite.
It was the opposite. And I mean, but at least he made you work for it and say, hey, this is not going to be an easy ride. It's not going to be a free ride.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to earn this. If you really want to do this, you're going to have to earn it. And I appreciate that, him instilling that in you and your brother. Now, you talked about, getting into stand-up comedy for your high school fundraiser. Now, how it's like you're all over the place now. So how did you
I forgot about that.
Over stand-up comedy?
So I had been thinking about it for a while. Like I've always been like funny growing up.
Mm-hmm. Keep it humble. Don't worry, keeping it humble.
I know that's a crazy thing to say,
right.
I was always considered like the funny kid or like the class clown. Like my mom saved everything growing up, obviously, because moms do that. And there is one piece of paper that is one of the only pieces we have left. We kind of got rid of all the stuff that doesn't really matter that much. But it's laminated and it's up on her desk. And it is what all of my first grade classmates, we had to write something nice about every single one of our classmates. And they put them all together and every single one of them says, Eliza's so funny. Eliza's so funny. Eliza's so funny. And this was at age, how old are you in first grade? 8, 7?
6, 7, yeah.
Something like that. So it's been a long time coming. So then I was like, I'm funny, I'm conversationally funny and I'm situationally funny, but I don't know if I can write jokes. So then every time I had a funny thought or I said a funny thing out loud, I would go into my notes app and just write it down in this running note, which is still the note I use to this day. I never deleted it. And then I was like, there's a through line here somewhere. Like I can take this joke and I can segue it into this one. Mm-hmm. And we did like a cabaret style fundraiser. And Lord help me, I don't know what the fundraiser was for. Don't know what we were raising funds for. Because this was obviously 5 years ago now. But we did a fundraiser, like open mic. They were like, literally do whatever you want. And everyone else is like, I'm going to sing a song. I'm going to tap dance. The jazz band's going to play. And I was like, I think I'm going to do stand up. I think I'm going to try it. So I tried it. It was like I did like a 10-minute set, which looking back, like that's crazy. And it was fine. Like looking back, it was not great. There was potential in there somewhere, but people were laughing. So I was like, this is, I had fun doing it. It wasn't great, but I see what it's like now, and I liked it. So I was like, let me think about this and let me want to do it again. And then the pandemic happened, so clearly I had a bit of a halt there. But that gave me more time to think about stuff, and then I started writing more sketches and stuff. And then when I got to college, I started producing some, just like with friends and stuff, and we would write stuff for fun.
Wow, and I mean, you mentioned the pandemic, and I mean, I think a lot of us creatives found a lot of things to do creatively during that time where we had literally just nothing to do, and we found things to do. I recorded my music video in my house. You know what I mean? Yeah,
exactly.
And I found a way to do it, and it just really goes to show you. And in comedy, I find that you really have to have an outside of the box mentality.
Oh yeah.
In order to come across funny, by how to make the punchlines connect with the actual story that you're telling. You know what I mean? And comedians that I've watched over the years, and there's been so many that's been out there. But as you were beginning your journey in comedy, talk about being a woman in comedy in regards to some of the ones that are out there.
Yeah, I mean, the classic is like, everybody says Amy Schumer's not funny. Literally everyone, that's just something that you hear about female comedians all the time. And obviously everybody knows people are like, well, women aren't funny, period. Okay. What a strange thing to say. What a strange thing to say to me.
Right.
People just don't like knowing that I think women actually are the global majority at this point, which is ironic.
100%. Absolutely, they are. Yeah.
I believe it's 51% women on this, literally this earth. But when women were considered the minority and they said something funny, that hurts my manhood. So, of course, everyone's going to say, well, men are going to say, that's not funny. That's so funny because all the girls laughed.
Right.
I saw you. I see you hiding a smile. So it's just like, it's just a power trip. But I know I'm funny. So I'm not gonna not say something just because like y'all might not laugh. You probably think something funny is in there, and guess what? You're gonna talk about it later. That's publicity.
Right. Exactly. So I know you mentioned Amy Schumer. Are there any other whether male or female, of comedians that you've looked at or referenced as kind of like, okay, that's kind of the map, that's kind of the blueprint that maybe I want to follow, not copy, but more or less kind of
just like inspiration.
Absolutely.
My favorite comedian's Tom Segura.
Okay.
And I think it kind of stems from, he reminds me of my dad's brother, so my uncle on my dad's side, not my mom's side. This matters for Brandon's lore.
Okay.
So he reminds me, he's like, his pacing and his timing they're exactly like my Uncle Lee. So I think subconsciously, I think he's really funny because my uncle's one of the funniest people I've ever met. So I think because it's so similar, and I grew up with this kind of humor, and clearly my dad and his brother have very similar cadences and very similar senses of humor, and that's where I got mine from. I think that's always been my inspiration mostly. I don't so much look to actual comedians for what I want to sound like and what I want to do, because I just have I have a very unique sound because I was trained in musical theater, so I have a very interesting performance style.
Right.
But it comes from my family, mostly.
You know, it's funny because a lot of, God rest his soul, but the late great Bernie Mac, a lot of his stories stemmed from family, where he was talking about his nieces and his nephews. You know what I mean? And the Kings of Comedy is still one of the greatest, comedy concerts of all time to end up being a movie. But just that storytelling aspect where you can come from a real life place, and those are the comedians that I gravitate towards because of the storytelling aspect. But we're going to move on now to Brandon, bring you in here now in regards to this TV show pilot called Maddox. So I'm going to ask mainly to discuss the synopsis for Maddox and how did you come up with the concept for it?
Yeah, the original concept I wrote back when I was like 16. I remember I would write it a lot in like my photography class because I would get the work done and then have like an hour to do nothing. So it originally started with, it was like a hard romance where it was like, at the time you think like, oh, I'm 16, I'll write like a 16-year-old character.
Right.
And
For sure.
It was like, the main character's name was Jeremy. And it was straight up like, he wanted to be a comedian. And then like the best friend was like an actor, singer, and it was. What's funny is that I looked back on that script not too long ago, and I was like, you know what? For having your main character be a comedian, I don't think there was a single joke in any of it. I'm reading it, and I'm like, I'm not laughing.
Right.
But I look back on it with such fondness of just knowing the absolute passion, and when I slowly brought it to our director, Jaden. It was, what's the grit of the show? It's about a stand-up comedian who finds his girlfriend cheating on him, and now he's for the first time single and doing stand-up in New York. So, you pull a lot from life events and everything. I mean, when I first moved to North Jersey from my parents' place, I did a long distance relationship. And I remember when that ended, it was, I'm an adult, like I was just like, I don't know what I'm living so much that I've never experienced before. And that's kind of was the idea of taking the character, like, let's put him in scenarios that he's never been in. So that's what I really liked, and co-writing the first episode with Jaden, it really brought out that kind of groundedness to the character. And I'll tell you, Jaden absolutely brought ideas that were amazing to make the character so realistic.
Right. So you mentioned Jaden. So you said Jaden is the director for this particular TV sitcom. Talk about him for a little bit.
Yeah, we met when he was using my apartment's garage for his film, and I had met him, and I don't know what it was, but he had something, just such a pulse of like passion on what he was working on, and I remember going up to him and I was like, hey, listen, we might never speak again. I go, but I have this idea that if I can just send it to you and see what you think. And he comes from a background of like drama, gritty, like special effects, things blowing up, fight scenes. Right. So when I send him this, I go, hey, this is so outside of what you do, like just give it a read. And I think like a week later, he like sent me a message and was like, I'm down. He goes, I know how to direct. You know how to do comedy. So let's work together on this. And even though it was so outside of his wheelhouse, it's just the knowledge he brought was absolutely amazing. And actually today he released his passion project, Secrets of Eternity, which I watched right before hopping on this. And yeah, it just comes through the screen, absolute every bit of that passion. And that's why him and I work, I believe, so well together. And he is, again, one of the most smart individuals in the world. Amazing.
Incredible. So any shows past the present that you can compare this show to in regards to the similarity?
Yeah, there is an HBO show that ran for 3 seasons called Crashing. And it was Pete Holmes played a sort of fictionalized version of himself as well. And there was another show. It was after we'd finished filming the pilot, but I found another HBO show called Hello Ladies. And it's Steve Merchant. And it's like that, just the character is so awkward and just tries so hard that is just so, like, at least for me, that's like right up my brand of humor. And even in this, it's like Brandon, the character, has such a naviance to him that is hilarious to put him in situations that he's never been in.
Got it. Now, I want to bring Jaden back into this as well when you talk about the writing process and how long it took. Because when you're collaborating on something, you may have an idea and director, producer may have some other ideas. Talk about the formula and what made it work in regards to getting through the writing process.
So the good thing, I guess, was I had written the pilot and just wanted him to give feedback. Now, the second he came on for the project, he was like, I have notes. So when he took it and he rewrote it, it was, I could definitely see, I remember the first draft he sent back with that dramatic element. And some of it, like, it was ideas I would never have thought of, but someone seeing it from the outside came up with and was extremely, like, just a perfect idea. And then there's some where I'm like, you're going way too deep with this, man. I was like, it's a comedy, man. So, and that's what kind of is like that, push and pull, where it was like, he loves to bring it so grounded, and then I just come in and you have a character say a joke or a line that evens it out. So
right.
That was the biggest thing. And yeah, I would say when we started doing the rewrites, probably like 3 months of just going back and forth before we're like, this is what we're going with.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, and that is, again, kudos to him for still writing in the style of my voice in certain scenes, which was very impressive to hear. Like,
wow, that's awesome. So talk about the casting process. Obviously Eliza's in it as well. What were the challenges in finding the right? Because I'm not sure if are there going to be other people in this particular sitcom, but what was the process of finding the right actors, to fill the roles?
Biggest thing we looked for, I guess the biggest thing that I searched out was, I just want to find people who are, well, talented and know what the character is asking, and also just having a fraction of the amount of passion that I have for this. And we have a actor, his name's Adrian Espinal. He plays a stand-up comedian. Now, he himself is not a comedian. So when we put out that casting call, it was interesting because some people try to play it like they were a comedian. And when we got Adrian's tape in, he played it like he was a comedian. It it seemed like, even though it was written material, it's coming off the top of the head, his facial reactions. And I'd spoken to him afterwards. I was like, as someone who does stand up, you didn't offend me, and I like that. And he said, he's like, I just watched how people spoke on stage and how they used the microphone, and it was amazing how, even though it's just you might look and go, yeah, it's a stand-up comedian, the amount of effort he put into it to make sure that was right. And then, other characters, my roommate was played by Emily Jade Goodwin, and that was interesting because really that character, there's not a particular look. It's just who fits what we're looking for and has the style we're looking for. And she's amazing because on her tape, she was very big. She very much acted out the scene. And then we would look at her reel and everything.
Right.
And saw that she could do such subtlety. And we're looking at that, it's we have such a range to work with. And then Eliza, her casting process,
you asked me to do it.
I did. I reached out, and this is before, I would say, before Eliza and I were even really close friends. And I remember she auditioned. Jaden and I were going through it, and I think it was months before even confirming it. I think you and I hung out with some friends one time, and you're like, so what's going on with this? Yep. I was like, trust me, I'm asking the exact same thing, because it was just, it really just started the project. You just had to, it's like you have to rip the band off and go, let's just start it.
Right.
And yeah, I think you had to have waited maybe, I want to say minimum 6 months.
I mean, I could probably tell you the exact day that I
please bomb again. I was just going to ask you. Yes,
oh my god, can't receive
go on, and I'm gonna search for it.
But and then that's thing, even we did have an actor drop while we were on a short break where he had played the he played one of the bookers at the comedy club. And when we were getting ready to shoot again to kind of do the final scenes and everything, we reached out and we're like, hey, we need you for this day. He's like, oh, I moved to North Carolina. So what are we doing? I'm like, Jaden, what do we do? He goes, yeah, I've never had a situation like this. So we had to recast, and he's an extreme talent, and I know he's doing good. Him and I are still in good communication. And then we brought on this woman named Charity, and she absolutely understood. She came in,
she's cool.
I think with she came in with a week notice, ready with the material, and absolutely was amazing.
I found it, by the way.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay, ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
I sent you my tape on February 7th, 2023.
And then we started filming in November.
Do you want to know what my first day on set was?
Go ahead.
Okay, let me look. Let me go to my Instagram.
Oh, did you post? Oh, yeah, you did post something.
Yeah, because we were looking at stills after.
What was your first day on set? Was that the... Oh, no.
1 calendar year later.
Oh, wow.
February 19th, 2024.
I never said it was going to be a fast process. That's actually insane.
Yeah. Now, Eliza, I did want to bring you in and talk about your character, for this particular this TV show. You could talk about her a little bit and how you were able to connect.
Okay, so first, originally, it was going to be similarly to Brandon. I was going to be playing myself. And then there was one line that he wrote in the pilot that made me sound like an alcoholic, which is... which is really funny because I don't really drink. I really don't drink, ever. So I said, I don't like that. And if you're going to keep that, you have to change the name. Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to play myself because this is not even an exaggerated version of me. That's just not a version of me at all. And there was something else, too. There was something else, too.
I remember.
I know what it was about.
Which, by the way, that line, that day of shooting, we ended up having to scrap it anyways.
We scrapped the whole thing.
So we had to, we
Could have
were
been
going to
fun.
film, we were supposed to film at a bar, but it had to end up last minute being like a party. So the fact that, congratulations, you had a whole character's name rewritten and everything.
I know, I'm such a diva.
Eliza gets her way.
And now he brought me on as a writer, so clearly I was doing something right.
That is true. Eliza did. Yeah, Eliza and I did finish writing episode 2
We just finished
today.
episode 2 today.
Awesome. Congratulations. So with Brandon, I want to bring you back in. So talk about your production company, Laugh Track, that's behind this sitcom.
Yeah, so I grew up on early 2010s like videos and personality-based humor, where that's always just been, I've just always been drawn to it. And even all these years later, I find myself still going back to those videos because I guess it's just like comfort food.
Right.
It's like, I could probably, the videos I probably seen them 100 times over. But it's the personality and the banter that just brings me back to it. And that's what I wanted to create with Laugh Track. It was finding people with that similar mentality of just loving doing what they're doing. Right. And, even though you'll have like the craziest idea, you have the people who will support you and be honest with you. I mean, when I brought the show idea to Eliza, it wasn't met with like, oh, okay, and like a little pat on the head. It was, okay, that sounds interesting. What else? And people who have that similar brand of humor, and that's kind of what I just built it off of, is like, as long as we are having fun, we are loving what we're doing, and we are having a fun time, that's gonna come off. And that's really what like the heart and soul of like Laugh Track is for me, is just, let's make something we all absolutely love, but let's just have fun while we're doing it, because it's going, if you're not having fun with what you're doing, it's why do it,
Right.
So that's why, where was probably your first day of shooting, Eliza, was one of our longest days on set. And even by the end, like, people are tired and everything, but like, I remember ending the night and everyone was just so like, we got so much done. Like, I think you had even stayed for a while, just to, like, look over the footage.
We sat at your computer for like a couple hours and we just looked through everything, because oh my God, I mean, God bless the editor, like literally in my thoughts and my prayers, because we improv'd the scene every single time. Like, not one take is even close to similar as another. So we were literally like, oh, which one, like, what was our favorite? Which one we liked the most? Where was the one where you said this and I said this? And like, how can we cut those together? So we just went through and we were just looking for all these different like bits that we had said for like hours.
Yeah. And that thing is like the people who are involved, and even the DP Gavin, when we wrapped filming, was just like, he's so nonchalant. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, just let me know. I'll be right back. Like, next episode, I'm there. I'm here. I'm like, even something like that, I was like, love it. Like, it's the people who are just so engaged with it.
That's incredible. So this is for the both of you, and you can both answer, take turns answering. But have you reached out to any mentors? And if so, what advice did they give you? And as far as what was some of those gems that they dropped to say you should do it this way versus doing it that way? If you want to go, Liza, be my guest.
So I have a couple uncles it's really weird that it's always my uncles. It's never like cousin or anything. It's literally, I have a bunch of uncles in the film industry and the television industry. So I told them about it and they were like, yes, send it over. We would love to read it. We'd love to check it out. I told Brandon plenty of times. My uncle's a professional editor. He's worked on plenty of shows, plenty of films. He worked for the Rangers for a while.
Okay.
So I texted him a couple days ago and I was like, yo, when we're done with episode 2, I'd love for you to read it, because he will tell me if it's good, he will tell me if it's bad, and he will tell me exactly what needs to change. So I told Brandon, and he was like, yeah, that's valuable. Let's send it over. So I sent it over to him today, actually. So we will see what he says. And I said, once you have a final cut of the first episode of the pilot, I'm going to send that over to. He's going to tell you what's good, what's bad, and what needs to change.
Okay. Brandon?
Yeah, and as for mentors in the industry, my first ever acting teacher is, her name is Sandra Turner. I call her Sandy because I'm cool like that. And the open live communication is just, she met me when I had to have been no more than 17. And the fact that she sees like what I'm doing, and she's kind of the same way where she's like, let me know what's going on, like keep me updated, and having that person who knows the industry and who is willing to give that open communication is so valuable. And I tell her all the time, like, how much I appreciate like what she does, because I know she doesn't have to do it. Right. And I remember it was right before the first day of shooting, or it was like a couple days or so. I texted her, Frank, like scared and everything. And I was like I'm freaking out. I'm having last minute like second guessing or whatever. And I think a night or two before the first night of shooting, we hopped on a Zoom call and like just ran through the whole script of just reading it, going through it, and it was so just appreciative. And I absolutely just owe her so much. And I mean, now she's known me for, what's that, like 6-7 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
Eliza will be the first one to tell you I'm not good at math or spelling. We found that out a lot today.
Bro, he can't.
I was just about to ask, dude, can we talk about some funny things that's happened during this process?
We have sat on the phone almost every single day for the past week and a half, 2 weeks. Can I? Oh my God! Can I curse?
Yeah.
We've been fucking cracking up because it's like the weirdest job in the world where you put two comedians in a room together and you say, write a comedy. Bro, we literally, every other line is a joke, is a one-liner, is a setup, is a punch. And we are literally like, well, what if it was this? And what if it was this? And what if it was this? We sit here on the phone for hours throwing jokes at each other. And like, they're funny. Like, we just make each other laugh. We make ourselves laugh a lot too. Like, sometimes Brandon will be like, oh my God, like, what if it was this? And I'll be like, yeah, what if?
Yeah, what if? I guess we'll never know.
They can't win them all. Exactly. They can't all be winners. So that's what our past, like, 2 weeks has looked like. We literally sit on the phone and we tell jokes to each other, then we write them down.
And I think it's also, I don't know.
And he can't spell, so I do the typing, by the way. We figured out that works best, is that I do the typing.
So I guess that comes from your uncle's class that you took,
I know that's right.
School, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I know that's right.
And that's the thing is, like, the best is, like, we'll hop on, like, a call or something, and I'll write, like, a page or two, and I'll be like, oh, yeah, just let me think of this dialogue, and she'll be like, ooh, and I'm like, I'll
just say the word out loud. What was it today? You spelled something wrong crazy today, like something easy.
It was, all right, let's...
Something easy.
I know.
But what?
No, go ahead.
No, because I need inspiration. I need to know what word it was.
It was, I know, well, I also can't say certain words.
I don't
really
know
what it is.
I don't know
what it is. What is it? Acquaintance? Oh, wait,
he can't say acquaintance. He can't say acquaintance.
Acquaintance.
And meanwhile, mind you, he wrote it. He decided on the word. He picked the word. I said, are you really going to write this if you can't even say it? He was like, yeah.
Yeah,
I said, you're going to have to practice. It was so bad that we literally tried to make a joke out of it. We were like, all right, if you seriously aren't going to say it right, we have to write a joke about the fact that you can't say it. He was like, no, I'll just practice.
It's that. And even, it's also, God, it's going to bother me what the word was.
It was something crazy.
It was also, I know I also had to write episode at one point, and I think I swapped the I and the S.
He spelled episode wrong today on the title card. He spelled it E-P-S-I-O-D. He said episode. And sometimes when he spells things wrong and he's like, hey, can you check this out? I'll just say the word out loud. I'll scan it and I'll go, episode? And he'll go, what? And I'll say, episode? You spelled it wrong?
I'm running a company, woman. I am running a company.
So I'm his walking spell check. That's why he doesn't touch the keyboard anymore. He Googles things and I type them all out on the paper.
Yeah.
It's teamwork, right? Teamwork.
And it does make the dream work, let me tell you.
Indeed. So when you talk about, writing for a comedy, and I know you want to keep the laughs in there, talk about when you're writing and it has to get serious in the drama aspect of it.
Yeah.
When do you know when to take that sharp right?
We literally had this conversation today.
Talk about it.
Yeah. We had this scene and it's in the second episode where these two characters are having
no spoilers.
I know, kind of
like these two characters.
Right.
Are trying, like, they have to have a discussion, and it was kind of that conversation we had with, like, how serious do we go with it? Like, you have to, like, kind of put yourself in the shoes of it, and there's been multiple times where we'll write something, and I'll just say, let's read it, and we have to read it to see, like, is there time for maybe, not specifically a joke, but what a character tried to lighten the mood, or by doing that, would it make it worse? And that's been one thing, is especially with still building these characters and figuring out relationships and their dynamic.
That is hard. I think that's why this episode's taken so long, because we would write a scene, we would literally get through like half a scene, then we would go back and we would stop and we would literally be like, well, why are they doing this? Like, we didn't just come up with it. We'd be like, well, why did she say that? And why did he say this? And does that make any sense? And then we would rationalize it and we would be like, actually, no, that doesn't make any sense. Like, this person wouldn't do that. And then Brandon asks really good questions. As shocking as that may sound. Brandon's very smart. And he would be like, well, like, why is this person doing this? Or why are they saying this? And what are they trying to get done? And I was like, damn, you're good. I was like, you're so right. And then that would actually, because we're the second episode, we are literally building these characters from the ground up. We have nothing right now. So it's been a learning curve, that creating these characters with the words that we are choosing and everything. There has to be a reason for every single thing.
I'll be honest with you, because I'm an actor myself in addition to doing this podcast. And one of the things that my acting coach, Sarah Marnell, has instilled in me, I'm again so grateful for all of the knowledge that she passed on to me, was she said, do a deep dive on the character that you're auditioning for. Like, if the story is taking place in Washington, D.C., what's their lingo? If it's in New York, anywhere across the country, as far as understanding what, how they speak and, how people walk, how people talk, all these other things. And I know you says you guys are coming up with these characters. So how much of a deep dive right now are you in regards to understanding who these different characters are?
Yeah, I mean, so for playing a fictionalized version of myself, and that's the one thing that is always, I have to emphasize, is his name is Brandon.
It's not him.
Me. Yeah.
Right. Very different people.
That thing is, this Brandon is a bit of a square. He's not one to really take giant risk. And as you're saying, the walk and everything, there's a shot. There's a shot in the pilot that Brandon just has to cross the street, and I just thought I was like, how is he gonna do it? And I remember I just walked across the street, and we just had the camera planted, and I remember the director was like, "What the fuck did you run across the street like that for?" It felt right, and it actually what's up?
I think this is the same scene where you tripped over the street sign. And leave that. That's Brandon. Leave that.
So we actually can't be using that, so I'm okay with freely talking about it. Where was a shot where all I had to do was walk out and walk up to a character. It was extra footage, just something we had time. Let's just grab it. And there was a sign. It was a metal sign on concrete, and I bumped into it. and fell. It sounded like a gunshot went off.
The loudest sound you've ever heard.
Wow.
It ricocheted, and so credit to the actor in that scene. He had a vape pen, I remember, and he just hit it, not acknowledging that in the slightest.
So good.
And I got up, and there was like these people just walked by, just random people, and they looked at me. And I just looked, and I was like, "Sorry." I just kept walking.
You guys got to use that for. You guys got to do that for blooper footage. You have to.
It is funny. It's the funniest video I've ever seen.
Seriously.
But it's things like that are like, while we're writing, when we're sitting on the phone like this and we're writing things, we'll be like, oh yeah, well, Brandon does this, and I'm not talking about the real person. I'm talking about the character. Because in my head, they're two completely different people. So it's things like that like, this brand, the real life one, like, that's not you. I would be like, oh my god, that's so Brandon, and I'm talking about the character. This isn't something that real Brandon would do.
Yeah.
Wow.
Real Brandon is probably one of the coolest people in the world. I think it's like
Let's not get crazy.
That's right.
I love it. So right now, as you guys are sitting here, how many episodes that you're planning on, putting out for this pilot?
That's a Brandon question. How many episodes are in season 1?
I looked at my notepad. I had my notepad.
Can you say like 8?
As of right now, it's 8. Definitely solidified that we have a strong base for that we would want to go with, because we have kind of a overarching idea, but definitely 8 in the first season.
Okay. And when and where are you planning on shopping this?
So the pilot will definitely be posted onto like YouTube, and then we're creating the Laugh Track website, and really that's just to get eyes on it at the moment. And we do have someone who is going to try to at least get us in the room and to be able to pitch it.
I didn't even know this.
That was
an exclusive on the D-Lew Podcast. Here we go, baby.
Guess we better get writing.
And at the end of the day, if it was just made in-house and everything, I have absolutely no issue just keeping it, to Laugh Track and, continuously producing it underneath that. But certainly producers wouldn't hurt either. So
It's true.
Yeah. That is legitimately as much as I'm allowed to say to that.
Right.
This is all stuff. I don't even know all this.
Wow. Well, like I said, an exclusive. I mean, we just got it right from the man's mouth. I like it. When we're talking about success, right? What does success mean to the both of you regarding this project?
Brandon.
Eliza?
Oh my
god! Oh man, this is great.
Birds of a feather. Okay, ladies first. So Brandon, go ahead.
That is nice.
I
mean, honestly, the second and I don't mean to get like all deep or go into the question too crazy, but it's like success for me is we made it, and I'm excited just to put it out. Just listen, even though again I know I play a fictionalized version of myself, and it's the main character. I'm excited just to show off everyone's talent. But that's the success is, this, everyone involved really hasn't done a project like this before to this extent where it's, it's not, I made it clear to everyone, it's not a one and done. And when you come onto this project, you're being, a part of the team where we will pretty much always promote you to an extent where I always say, all right, you've been cast. Just let you know, you're also going to be on the podcast. We also have this we're working on. Like, you're in our wheelhouse now of people. Adrian, who I was talking about earlier, Jaden cast him in a very small role in his Secrets of Eternity just because he was such a delight on Maddox. So just having that communication. So success, I mean, I'm extremely happy right now, but I will say the way I know how I want to end this season, getting that shot, I'll be so excited. That's like what
it's going to be expensive.
I will make it work.
What's the old expression? Invest in yourself, right? And bet on yourself. That, I mean, that like no one's going to invest in you more than you. And I mean, I've learned that the hard way, with this podcast, with my music, with all the other things that I'm doing. You got to invest in yourself. That's so important. But the answer I want from you as well, Liza, what would success mean for you with this project?
I do have to say I'm like a check, please, direct deposit. No, honestly, Brandon hit the nail right on the head. It's just we're doing it. It's the fact that it's being done. Honestly, the time that it took to get the ball rolling doesn't really feel like that much, which is interesting. Because it was a calendar year, as we learned, 25, 30 minutes ago. But it's very rare that I look at a project and I'm a part of a project and I'm like, oh my God, like this is going to be something, like this is going to be good. Most of the time, 99% of the time you do the project, you're like, cool, done, got it. I'll put it on my resume if I feel like it. If it was really good, which usually it's not great. But he came to me with this idea and I was like, that's good. And I read it and I was like, that's good. And now we're doing it. And the way I wish Brandon could be a fly on the wall sometimes when I tell people like what I'm up to. Because the way I talk about it is with a lot of passion. And I literally tell people straight up, I'm like, it's going to be really good. Like I'm actually very excited for this one. And it's not just going to be, like you said, a one and done. Like it is what it is right now, but it's going to be more later. And I really would not say that if I did not think that. Brandon knows that for a fact. I would tell him it sucked and it doesn't. So I know that the train's gonna move.
Don't worry, you're already in the second episode. Don't gotta butter my ego.
Yeah, because I wrote it. Of course I wrote myself in.
Awesome. But before we get out of here, I know you guys, like I said, you guys are doing, you do stand up and having other things. What other things you have going on outside of Maddox, the TV show pilot?
This one's me. Right now, in the winter season, I work for the Devils, so I'm working there right now. So we're the hype team, basically. So we do that. Pretty much just working. I am gonna start doing more stand-up shows because I've been slacking a lot. So I need to start doing it because if I don't start like ASAP, I'm never going to, just because it's obviously scary to get up and do that and to write a set and to go do it for people and memorize the whole thing. But if I don't start doing it again, it's not going to happen. So I'm going to start doing that maybe next Thursday if I'm in town. So it's pretty much what I got going on. I'm probably going to start writing more sketches again. Maybe I'll start producing them again. Because this is inspiring me to start writing my own things again. So
awesome, and by the way, you're talking to a hardcore Devils fan right here.
Oh, so, I'll see you there.
Yeah, I actually remember all 3 Stanley Cup championship wins. I remember where I was for the first Stanley Cup. I was coming home from a drum and bugle corps show. Our drum corps was actually watching a show, and on the bus coming back, home. The bus driver actually had the game on, and I actually was the only kid in my drum corps that was like, the Devils.
Oh, that's amazing.
I was so excited. And then I was actually, I live here in Delaware, so this is Flyers country, and I was watching the 2012, because I was going up to Jersey for the first 3 rounds of the Stanley Cup during the playoffs. The first round was Florida, second round was the Flyers, third round was the Rangers, but I saw Game 6 at a Hooters down here, and Adam Henrique with the game-winning goal in overtime was just like, oh my God, incredible. And I still say we did get robbed of the Stanley Cup from the Kings, but that's another story for another day. But I had to just put that out there. I'm a huge Devils fan. But Brandon, what else you have going on outside of the of the show?
Oh no! Welcome to the sports edition of the D-Lew Podcast.
Hey, listen! I covered pro wrestling. I've interviewed a former NBA player at Fanatics Fest a couple months ago, so I dabbled a little bit.
Brandon, what sports stuff do you have going on?
I'm a Flyers fan. Listen.
Right.
I'll talk boxing and UFC, which is very shocking every time I talk.
And we know, I'll talk about it too. I'll talk about it. I love all sports, so trust me, that's something we could talk about another time for sure.
Yeah. And let me tell you, Derek, real quick, it is amazing to meet someone with such a connection to sports, WWE, and has been on Wheel of Fortune. But that
Okay, party trick.
Yeah, I was on wheel for WWE week last year. Actually, it was pretty crazy.
Wow.
True story. Yeah.
Eliza witnessed very recently. I know a long list of people's encyclopedia resumes.
Oh my God. Yeah, he stalks. He stalks.
But as for what was the question?
The question was,
What are you up to?
What else you have going on? Right now.
So on October 26th, I'm going back to the Broadway Comedy Club to do a show. And other than that, we are in early development of another laugh track production. And that's really been the biggest things, is prepping for that show and then continuing the next episode of Maddox, because what we would like to do is go into production into the new year of the episodes kind of back to back, a quicker turnaround. And yeah, other than that, it's just getting on stage a lot more. And it means the world just to even spend time doing this, because I love it so much. And my sleep schedule doesn't, but every aspect of doing this just brings me so much joy, and I'm just so excited to see what's out there. I mean, again, it took a year to do the pilot, and I think back to a year ago and how much you never know. So it's like it's like scary, but also exciting. Like, what's the next year hold for all of us?
Right. Wow. Well, where can the people find the both of you on social media? Give out all the platforms. Liza, you can go first.
Okay, so my biggest platform is my TikTok. That is going to be Eliza, not Elijah. That is ELIZA not N-O-T .ELIJAH. I think that's how you spell Elijah. I don't even know. But that's my biggest platform.
Who doesn't know how to spell now?
Right. Sorry, who has 23,000 followers? I do. So go follow my TikTok, because I make some money off of there, and I would love if you follow me and give me some money. And my Instagram is Eliza Andrus, ELIZA ANDRUS. And if you want to check out my website, it's elizaandrus.com.
All right. And Brandon?
Yeah, and as for my TikTok and Instagram, it's just at Brandon Michael Maddox. You don't have to spell it out; they're pretty basically the same. Even though I found out a lot of people switch the A and the E in Michael, which I did for years.
Yeah,
I was spelling my own name wrong for years. So, those are the two biggest things. And then we'll be having the Laugh Track website launch soon, and then for Laugh Track, Laugh Track LLC on both TikTok and Instagram.
Drop a follow.
Yeah, definitely follow them. Well, again, both of you. Thank you. I really, truly mean thank you for thinking of the D-Lew Podcast to come on and talk about this incredible, sitcom that I feel, based off what you explained to me, me as an actor, me as a fan of, of content creating, I think this can be really, really huge. But if you believe in your project, and if you have passion about it, and like you said, Liza, when you're talking about how you speak with so much passion when you're talking about it to people, whether it's family, friends, or even a total stranger, that really says a lot about everything that's involved with the show. And like I said, I cannot wait to see all of this come to fruition.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be good.
Very much appreciate. And Derrick, when am I getting you on? Let's get you on the Laugh Track podcast.
Yo, get on the podcast.
Yeah. Listen, man. Listen, like I said, no matter what, like Ocho Cinco always says, I'm always open. You know what I mean? My schedule's always open. No,
the Laugh Track cinematic universe.
Listen, listen. I don't care what it is. Hey, even if it's on this show on Maddox, if you got something for me, hey, let's talk about it. You know what I mean?
We're about to write you in episode 3.
If you want to write me in, like I said, just hit me up. You know the vibes. Call me. There's so many ways to contact me: email, text, IG, everything else. You guys can just hit me up. I will be there. Don't
I know that's
worry.
right.
Absolutely.
And done.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very, very much, guys. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely.